what's going on? Todd Shaw with another episode of the Sawdust Dude in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains. Oh yeah, baby. Hey, we got a log cabin project going on. As you guys follow my other log cabin videos, appreciate you watching and all that other cool stuff. Like, subscribe, do all those things you got to do, notification bells, blah blah blah. So here we go. Cool. So these logs that you see in the background, they're going to be used for different things, and primarily on the log cabin over here you can see support beams for decks and for shed roofs and things like that. So that's what we're going to use these for. So I know going into the project what size logs I need, the length and the diameter of it. So most of them kind of begin out on the lower porches, like 12-13 inches in diameter. And you'll see some of the smaller logs over here that definitely fit that build. Then you got some that are flared out like that are more like 14, 15, 16 inch logs, and we'll use those for supports running across. And so you kind of really need to match up your logs when you kind of face with that situation. So where do you get your logs? Well, thank goodness we have a local lumber mill close by that we just purchased them from them. You can find somebody that clears timber for you, and so you know, a lumberjack kind of a guy can kind of get that done. But you will get a log that kind of looks something like this. So when you have a log like this, obviously you need to debark it, and that's the first thing that you need to do. And the easiest way to do that, you can use a draw knife and things like that, a foot adze tool where it's kind of like a hoe, and you can sit there and chip away the bark. Funny story, my granddad used to have me doing that when we would build tobacco barns, and he'd call it, I thought he was saying foot add, like ADD, foot add. And I was like, foot subtract, because if that thing chops off your toes. But so with any tool, obviously you have to be careful. But what I found out over the years, guys, that things that have kind of worked for me is a little spade like this. It's got a heavy duty steel point on it that I sharpen to like razor sharp kind of thing, and you can just kind of use it as a hoe and just lift up the bark on there. So I'm just going to show you a little how we do that. As you can see, that's just a lot of work, and it does take a lot of time. But you get a couple guys with a couple of these little spades like this, and you can just really rip through it. One of the things that you have to, especially if you put a bevel on it, which side digs in and which side will lift. Sometimes you got to take the corner of your tool, get in there with that bark, and that'll get you started, and you can kind of peel it on off. It is hard work. That's the best way to do it. Some mills will debark the logs for you. That's an additional cost. Obviously, we're looking for the most economical way to do it, and so pricing out man hours per hour per what the sawmill charged us, it was easier for us to go to the sawmill, pick out the logs, pick them up and bring them to the job site ourselves, and then pay a couple guys just to help us out. And so that just works economically. That was the best way for us to do that. So these are the shape that you get the logs in, and so we've kind of stacked them up, separated them, because I want Mr. Sunshine to do his little deal now and get these things all dried out. Now let me show you what to look for once it starts drying out. A couple things on logs getting prepped out and how you know the Sunshine doing this thing. Obviously, moisture meter is your best friend. These logs have to be cured out to about 19% moisture content or below, and trust me, you'll get there at no time at all. But one of the ways you can tell that the sun's really working on these logs and that they're starting to cure out is when you get the inner bark. It's like the bark between the log and the actual outside bark. And inner bark kind of looks like this. And I'm sure you'll get stuff that kind of looks like this, and that'll start peeling off the logs. And that's when you know you're headed in the right direction. So that's a good sign. Well, let's talk about another thing that you need to do, and let your logs dry out a little bit before you start trying to sand on them and shape them. And what I mean by this, you're going to get logs that have knots like that where the limbs were. And obviously the lumberjack and the guy clearing out the logs, the forest, he just cuts them off quickly. Well, you need to finish them out. And you can take a sawzall or a handsaw and just saw them down, and then take a shaping tool or a carving tool on the end of a grinder. And those shaping tools kind of look like this little disc here. They go on the end of your grinder, and we use a cordless grinder, and that helps us to get those knots smoothed out, because I want them looking something like this. And see how I've tapered those edges? I've kind of got it, that's got a good look to it. So I've done this log a little bit. One of the things, you want your logs to be dry before you start doing that. Get some of the water out, get some of the sap out, because as you can see, it will gum up the surface of your carving disc. And just soak that in turpentine or brush cleaner, and that'll get that cleaned up. But if you let them dry a little bit, and then I would start that process. You can also use that little shaping tool on areas like this where logging chains or whatever dug into it, and you can just use that tool to shape that out. You can get tear outs in the logs, and you can kind of see how that's just like the first step where we start shaping up. You can see other spots in the logs. These logs are going to be hand hewn look anyway, that we'll do with a planer. And so that all that'll just kind of your artistic integrity, or not integrity, your artistic flair. You get to be a little creative when making these logs before you put them up. Well, one of the things that I always do too, I want the logs off the ground. I want them separated. I don't want them stacked up. And you can kind of see how we just taking some 4x4 timbers, keeping them separated. And then I also, while they're like this and in their curing process, I use ShellGuard RTU. It's a wood preservative, and I spray that on the logs and let that go ahead and soak in. Then once we get them dried out and we clean them up a little bit to get rid of the knots and the little voids and the checks in there from where they got punctured, we'll clean all that out, shape up the logs, and then we'll go in with a Permachink log wash, give them a good log washing, and then they're ready to, sometimes you can pre-stain and then put them up, or they're ready to use. Treat the ends with log end seal, get the logs shaped up and everything, and you're in business. Well, listen, cool deal. Hey, I hope this little video helped you out, and kind of like the first step of how do you get logs to make your log cabin look cool. Instead of just sticking 4x4s or 6x6s up there, use material that makes a log cabin look complete. It's the whole redneck feng shui, logs on logs, baby. So hope that really helps you. Well, listen guys, hey, I appreciate you watching another episode of the Sawdust Dude in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains. Hey, appreciate you watching, and I'll see you real soon. Oh yeah.